Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's vOLTHA TST. Thanks for joining. As usual, the call is public and recorded, will be shared live on YouTube. And so please be mindful of the comments you make and the information you share. First of all, I'd like to start with the OLT disconnection that Abhilash and Amit's team are working on. I know that he created a lower level design proposal. So Abhilash, do you want to take that on and share it with the team?
Yes.
You should be able to present.
Yeah. Yes.
If not, I can share the screen with the document.
I know. I'll share it. Give me a second. Is the
Hey,
document?
Raj. Sorry, I joined late, but I'm here now.
Hey, Raj. Is the document visible?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay, thank you. So from the previous meeting, what all we have discussed, it's still there. The only thing is I have added a few flow charts wherein the sequence diagrams wherein what happens. So, and also I have added for all the cases for OLT reboot, for PON, LOS clear and enable disable, and also I have added the changes required wherein where all the changes will be required. So basically, if at all I have to explain, I'll have to repeat what I have done last week. Should I continue, or it's fine if all can go through the document and provide their comments?
I think if you can go to the maybe high level implementation details, that would be good. But then we should probably just take the time, each and all of us. I've already done so, but each and all of us should go through the document themselves and make sure it's fine by them.
Okay. Sure. I'll go through the changes what all would be needed. So here on the OLT disconnect and reconnect. So the changes in OLT agent would be like once it loses connectivity to vOLTHA, so it will have to queue up all the events, indications, the alarms, and addition to that, it will have to ignore the discoveries in the agent as well. It needs to drop it because a lot of discoveries can just be getting queued up, which we need not queue it because anyway, if the OLT is reconnected back and the ONU is still up, so he will still again send the discovery. So we need not queue the discovery once we lose connection to vOLTHA. So that's on the OLT disconnect, reconnect on the agent side. So on the reboot side, I don't see any issues. So anyway, it will be cleared. Everything will be cleared on the agent side. So no changes will be required there. And even on the PON loss scenario, there would be no changes on the agent. So in the adapter, so once we lose connectivity to the OLT, adapter doesn't do anything. So whatever he does once getting connection back to the OLT. So once he gets connection to the OLT, then checking on the heartbeat value, there is a heartbeat value we get. So the adapter will come to know whether the open OLT adapter is, the OLT is restarted or no, rebooted or no. So if it is not rebooted, the agent will send all those buffered events to the adapter. So now the adapter will act how he is acting as of now. So he'll process those indications. That's it. no more changes would be required there. And for the reboot case, once he comes to know, adapter comes to know it has been rebooted, the OLT has been rebooted.
Did we lose Abhilash?
Okay. So to stop having flow deletion, resource clearing, and also adapter is, we will ignore the the ONU discovery indications till the tech profile instance in the OLT adapter is clear. So we get an ONU discovery indication in adapter. Adapter checks if there is a tech profile instance for that ONU. If it is there, that discovery is dropped, because we are expecting a down would have gone up and the flow clear would eventually come and all the flows would be clear. So in the DT case, it will be like we wait till the whole ONU is deleted. So we can have one variable in the deployment file and act based on that. So if we want the ONU also to be cleared before honoring the ONU discovery, we can set that element. So once everything is cleared, all the resources are cleared, then the OLT adapter will start honoring the discoveries. So by this time, all the resources are cleaned and ONU gets activated, and based on the configurations, the flows will get pushed. So what this will solve is, this will solve a lot of problems wherein there is a PON LOS, when there is a flap and a PON cable, PON signal. So in that case, all the ONUs will go down and suddenly they'll come up with the discoveries. So to prevent that, this will help. And also in case of PON enable disable, if we do it back to back. And also this will help in reboot case as well, because once you reboot, the adapter will start clearing the resources only once it gets the connection back, because the adapter will have to know whether the OLT rebooted or not. So in all these cases, this ignoring of the discovery will help. And addition to that, suppose a case wherein we lost connection to the OLT and didn't come back up for 2 days, 1 day. So based on the timeout, what we can do is we can reboot that OLT or clear it up. Once the timeout expires in the adapter will clear all the resources. And once adapter gets connection back, regardless of what the state is, adapter will reboot it. So everything is a clean state.
I have two questions here. So item bullet number 3, if the heartbeat value is different, you are saying, what is that heartbeat value? I suppose it is there was a flag in the agent. I think it was previously connected or something. Do you mean that or something else?
Yes, what agent will do is, whenever agent comes up, right, he will take the start time. It'll be some number, epoch time, and then he will send it as a response to adapter when an heartbeat is checked. So that response will have one integer value, which is the epoch time, where at what time the agent was up. So now if OLT is rebooted, the agent will come up and that value will change.
I see.
Yeah. So even if the agent is restarted, OLT is not rebooted, just agent is restarted, then too it will come as a different value. So then as well, probably the val again will be restarted. So either way, this would work if we check on the heartbeat value.
So
this is a suggestion. This is a existing one already. So I'm open to having a reboot indication coming from the OLT as well.
So whenever we see that the heartbeat value is different, will we reboot to vOLTHA again, or so regardless of, okay, so regardless of vOLTHA is rebooted or connection is restored, we will check that value and take action, but we will not reboot to OLT if it is the connection is restored.
Yes, we will not reboot the OLT. We will reboot the OLT only once the timer I spoke about, wherein the OLT connection between the adapter and OLT it's off for 1 or 2 days. That of course we can configure. So if it's off for 1 or 2 days, so even though we get a reconnection back and OLT is not rebooted, it doesn't make sense because we don't know what happened for 2 days. So the safer approach would be here to reboot the OLT. So in that case, we can reboot.
I see. My other question is, just checking the tech profile instance would be enough to understand if everything is deleted about the ONU, because there are other resources in the KB store like tcons, Gamport, tcons, alloc IDs, etc. I don't know if the tech profile instance is the last deleted item from the KB.
Actually, that's the last deleted item from the KB. So that's why we can consider that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So probably Mahir has mentioned last week, we did take a different approach here. We don't want to restart the OLT again here if the connection is restored. And we just wait the activation of the OLT, and we wait, clean up all the things in the KV store, and then later we activate the OLT. I guess you already discussed this option, but I believe you believe this is a easier option for implementation, right?
Yes. So what you're saying is once even if the OLT is not rebooted and the adapter gets connection back to the OLT, the OLT is restarted by adapter, rebooted.
Yes, we don't reboot the OLT. We just delay the activation of the OLT, and we wait until all of the resources in the KV store are deleted. After everything is deleted, we start the activation of the OLT, and discoveries comes from the OLT. It's a similar approach, but in different ways.
Okay. Got it. So here, what I was doing is, since we have one ONU, right? So we have resources for one ONU. So if we clear off that, so the OLT will be ready to accept discoveries for that.
Yes.
So maybe I'm missing something, but I don't see the double reboot. Or am I? Because go ahead.
I don't remember when, but some time ago, we were rebooting the OLT again, regardless of checking if the OLT is actually rebooted or just the connection is restored. We were not checking anything.
Yeah,
We were always rebooting the OLT. I don't know the current situation.
Yeah. No, what I'm asking is, I don't see the double reboot in this proposal, so I didn't completely get the point that you have a different solution than this one, and you decided to go there because you didn't want the double reboot. I guess this solution fixes your issue as well, without the need of the double reboot. Or am I missing something?
We also don't reboot the OLT 2 times.
Okay.
The only difference is, if the connection is restored, we don't do anything. We don't delete anything. We don't touch anything. But
okay.
if the OLT is rebooted, actually, then we don't activate the OLT. And we wait after clearing all of the things in the KB store, then we start the activation process. The difference is there. Am I clear, or I can phrase?
So what is being done when there is a PON LOS, when there is a PON port flag? Because we end up in the same situation there as well.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. So this solution would cover all the scenarios instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
So what you're saying is, Mahir, is that you're fine with this?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? No? Okay, then if not, I think, Abhilash, you can start proceeding with the implementation according to the changes that you have outlined. We will probably need some changes to the tests. Hardik, does anything come to mind immediately, right away, or maybe we should spend some time trying to understand what this yields to the testing environment.
Yeah, I think we need to look at this in more detail, and then we can finalize on the tests. Yes.
Okay.
Especially I saw the OLT. There is a OLT disconnect test case, and also probably OLT reboot. Those needs to be reworked. Those test cases.
And probably.
So sorry.
Go ahead, Manish.
So here we are handling the indications from the bottom up to the OpenVoLTE adapter. So if there is any request that is coming from the northbound, I don't think they would reach the OLT because the connection is not there. Except, for example, if the flow comes down or the flow is removed due to subscriber add or remove, I think they would be in pending add or pending remove, right, Andrea?
I think so, yes, because we will try get a failure and they will stay in pending remove or pending add in ONOS, yes.
I think that's already sort of covered. I mean, the behavior hasn't changed anything there.
No, that shouldn't be any change. We might have to change some tests because I think we're checking the emptiness of the flows in ONOS at some point in some of these tests that we were just talking about. But yeah, I think the use case is covered. We might need to change the tests a little bit to accommodate.
But this looks good, Abhilash. I mean, from first sight, I mean, it looks fine to me.
There is Abhilash, and this is maybe my responsibility, but we need to make sure that Adtran is aware of this, because it will entail changes in their adapter as well. So let me.
Sorry, go ahead, Andrea. Sorry.
So let me take an action item to send this to the Adtran folks and make sure that they review it accordingly.
Yep.
So Andrea, Adtran is aware of the topic, but yeah, just to review this might be a good idea. So they already scheduled the changes, and yeah.
So any questions?
Nope.
Just one thing. I am agree with the solution, but just to warn you that we have those reconnection issues in the production systems, and I think 2 times without knowing anything about the what operation team doing in the production systems, they just trying to change some of the ports in the MPLS network, and just because of that, sometimes we couldn't give any service to the subscribers for 2 or 3 minutes or something, but it is avoidable because yeah.
Go ahead, second, sorry.
Because whenever the connection is right, if you lose the connection for 1 minute or something else, you always have to discontinue this service to clear all of the resources, etc.
Well, but what the proposal is to actually not do that.
I didn't get that, because once the connection, it says once the connection is lost, right?
Yeah.
Adapter not to clear the resources, and if the heartbeat value on the reconnection is different, then it starts cleaning up the resource. Maybe I get it wrong.
Yes, that is the case. So as far as I understand, and Abhilash, please correct me if I'm wrong, what will happen is that, so you have this OLT that, as you said, the MPLS labels get switched around and it gets disconnected, okay? But actually on the bottom layer, on the actual physical layer, all the configuration is there. So while you cannot provision new subscriber, all the existing subscribers still have flows and traffic flowing. Mm-hmm. So what will happen is that then the OLT, at some point, the MPLS labels get fixed because the operations guys figure out that they made a mistake, put the configuration back, and now we have a connection to the OLT again. The OLT shows up to vOLTHA. And the first thing we do, which we are not doing right now we do reboot the OLT, so every configuration is gone, even though it's there. So the first thing we do is we actually check the heartbeat. If the heartbeat and the connection time is the same we stored when we first connected to the OLT, then we say, okay, nothing changed. Think about it as like an MDS counter, like something that checks the state of the whole thing. If that did not change, we say, okay, we don't unprovision anything. We don't touch any resources. If that changes, then we reboot it because we say, oh, sorry, we cannot reconcile, the OLT rebooted itself. We don't know. But if no change has happened in that heartbeat, it means that the OLT stayed up and the traffic for the subscribers that were provisioned on that OLT stayed up. So no action should be taken. Is that correct, Abhilash?
Yes. Yes, correct.
So that avoids the situation you pointed out. Certainly.
Okay, then I got it wrong. Sorry.
Okay, well, glad I got it right.
Abhilash, I have a question here. So are we persisting the heartbeat timestamp? Because if the adapter restarts, does it still work?
That's a good point.
I think so. It's not getting persisted, but we'll have to persist.
It's a very good point, Girish.
Maybe you can make.
I'll add that. Yeah, I'll add that point because it's yeah. I'll add that point.
Thanks.
Okay, proceeding on. Any other questions or comments for this document or this proposal in general? No? Okay. Then if not, thanks for taking care of this, Abhilash, and thanks for taking a look at it. So I guess we should expect upcoming initial reviews from you on this topic as soon as you have started the work.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Let me know if you need anything from our side. Okay.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks, Andrea.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so next up, I'll take back the presentation rights. Okay. So next up, there is a continuation of the discussion on the controller, the next generation controller for vOLTHA. And let me actually take up a presentation that I started, which the aim of this presentation is really to put together the three designs that came up during the discussions we had in the past few months, and show, at least in my opinion, it really dawned on me while I was creating this presentation that that's not that much of a difference at a certain level. Some details some details are different indeed, but at least from an architectural perspective, given that we wanted to discuss the architecture of the controller, the architecture is not that different. So bear with me for a second, and I'll present this. So the original proposal from us, Open Networking Foundation, back in January, around that time frame, was this one. Here, we thought that we could have, there was an internal debate, let me put it this way. There was an internal debate around how much to split up in containers and how much to get into one container and just have different classes in art for the different pieces. The agreement was that we thought at least to have a hybrid approach with tending more towards less containers. So what we wanted to avoid was an explosion of containers. And we thought that like the common stuff, the packet handling, meter flow, event, and possibly topology, etc., could live in like one container. Here are shown in different because they're logical components. And then the operator workflow with the specific elements of the operator could live in a separate container, one or more. The idea behind this proposal was a performant language, primarily Go. That is what the ONF team feels is the right language. The direct using of vOLTHA APIs and gRPC as a communication protocol between the elements. So even here, for example, the interface would be gRPC. A lean implementation, as I said, one or two microservices with clear distinction between the operator workflow, a container restart model, and slot in for existing northbound APIs of others. You'll see more details here. In the past, we've talked about having the topology service and the database being Onostopo and Atomics. I'm not married at all to that. I don't particularly care what it is. It's just a topology service which keeps the details of the device, and a database where we put flows, meters, and groups, and information about the devices themselves. So then the second proposal that came going in history here was Radisys. The proposal from Radisys went a little bit of a different direction, in the sense that it condensed every process in the same container. But if you look at the logical elements that are here, that are different colored boxes, they are pretty much the same of what ONF had, with, again, Kafka and Redis as a database, packet handling, event handling, flow controlling. Flow, I guess this should be meters and groups as well, and then apps for a specific workflow from a certain operator. And again, the arrest versus the northbound applications. Again, key elements here is no cluster, because container restart model again, commonly defined gRPC towards vOLTHA, restart recovery mechanism from faults. They want seamless software upgrade. This is something that we at ONF had as well, and just didn't point out in the slide before. They considered going towards multiple pods. The issue would be that it could explode the number of containers. This is what their concern is. And they found out that for their use cases, the applications don't need dynamically loading, unloading of the different elements, because it's most likely being targeted for one or two specific operators. And they didn't want to consume resources in too much communication between the elements. The third proposal that came right after Radis's one was Netsia's. They went in, let me say, a little bit, again, what I felt was the other extreme of it. The proposal was everything is a container, okay? Then we deployed in separate or single pods. That is to be decided, but every app is a container. The operator workflow is a container, and the control core is a container. So actually, when I started looking at this, I thought it was an extreme, meaning that everything is a container. But actually looking better at it, it's very similar to what the original ONF proposal was, because the IGMP, DHCP, EEE, and PPOE are applications that can be dynamically loaded and unloaded, and those present the challenge that it could take away resources because of the gRPC communication and the vOLT app as well. Let me say it maybe goes a little bit too far, in my opinion, that in the sense that some of these could be grouped together, possibly some of the functionality could be grouped together, but yet again, it's not too far over, and it's not too different from what we have. Their idea is that each control stack is a separate container, and in that way, they can be a lot more technology agnostic in the terms, especially about the language, because they prefer Java instead of Go. gRPC for intercommunication, so we're there as well. Data duplication, this is a topic I have not brought up until now, and it's the fact that the Netsia wanted to reuse part of the data that is stored in the database, especially logical device flows between the controller and vOLTHA. This is something that I don't agree with. This is the sore point in this proposal. To me, I don't agree with this, but we have discussed it in the past. And actually, I don't see it as an issue. If Netsia wants to do it and wants to embark in the journey of keeping that totally and certainly in sync, go ahead. But the fact that the format could be the same, but you actually could store them twice, it's what tells me, okay, if you want to do it in the same and you're reading the same data, go ahead. Most likely the open source ONF design will not, but this does not impede because you just put the same path, okay? And they also have an iterative approach, replacing ONOS with minimum changes to the vOLTHA components, and that is agreed upon between all of the groups. So what I did was taking a stab at proposing an overall architecture that puts together all of the different proposals and sees if we can come to an agreement for a possible one controller that then becomes the de facto standard. And my thought is that as I mentioned, the packet, group, meter, event, and topology service are one object, one container. They're all in there. They're common, they're standard, it doesn't change. There's no specific of the workflow of the operator. That's it. It's going to be one container. And that will expose some gRPC services. Then those gRPC services can be used on an operator basis to have the operator workflow. And that operator workflow can be totally separated, meaning each app can do their own thing and communicate with gRPC with the common piece, or can be one monolithic controller, one monolithic container that includes all of it. We would waste some code, obviously, but there are pros and cons, as I mentioned before. And the one thing that I also highlighted here is that the app, if written by itself in a separate container, could be deployed directly on the OLT. There are already groups within ONF that do a deployment of parts of a solution, namely the SD Fabric solution. They already use the device. This is a switch, but generally you get the point, as a Kubernetes node. You basically label it and taint it properly, and you can deploy just what you need on that. So that could be something that could be done here, or just deploy it as a process. But again, via the same, with the same gRPC interfaces communicating with all of the rest. So this is the high-level proposal. I've written a few lines along what I just said. One container for the flows, meters, and groups. Apps can be on container or one container or like different containers. I don't care. At that point is up to the operator and whoever writes the design for that operator. The key element is that we have gRPC interactions between the common piece and the operator workflow or the separate apps. The gRPC interaction with vOLTHA, we just said that. The apps can live directly on the OLT, I just mentioned. The storage, it's the point I came about before, can or cannot be shared with vOLTHA. It's up to the operator. But the key point is that the flows are stored in the same format. And here I should suggest the openflow.proto format, because it's something that it's there, you can store it that way, and you can read it both directions. So it could suit Netsia's request for sharing the data, and my personal preference, and actually the ONF's preference to separate the data, which is also what Radisys went for. So currently, what is the key difference here is that even the first implementation of Netsia's controller, and Mahir Sirkan can correct me if I'm wrong, it's still monolithic. It's still one thing. So at the moment, there is no separation in containers. And what really is an issue to me is that there is no separation of containers because we don't have proper gRPC interfaces between those elements and the common core. So one suggestion that I'm making is to maybe define and reuse the BBF for the BBF models for interaction. And so the idea is also that we need to split out the workflow apps from the centralized handling from any implementation that we have, because Onos doesn't have it. LWC from Radisys is not split. And as far as I understood, I have not seen the code or seen it live. The Netsia's controller is not split. But the key point here is that the proposals we have made are not that different. We just need to actually do it. There are some points that nobody has yet done. And it's a longer discussion, especially around the APIs. I know it can become very tricky to define those things. So this is what I have. And this is really maybe some legacy that I'd like to leave for the discussion going forward. My suggestion would be to take existing implementations, either Onos, either the Radisys controller, and either Netsia's controller if they decide to open source it. Look at which one offers the best platform to achieve these things, keeping in mind that none of them has them. Look at it, look at the open source code, and then decide where to build. That would be my take. So I just spoke about 10 minutes, maybe even more. So feel free to ask me any questions or thoughts or comments. But I really wanted to put to a final, at least from my point of view, the architecture design of the controller that we went a little bit too much over in the past.
Can you go back to your proposal, Andrea?
You want the architecture
slide,
slide, the one before? Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, there we go.
So I believe this architecture is very similar what we envisioned right now. And the current implementation is almost like this. The only difference is, as you mentioned, the usage of data, sharing of data in the database. As you said, we are using the vOLTHA database for the flows, logical flows, ports, etc. That might be the only difference I can see right now. Other than that, so we reuse the ONOS codes, like for the DSCP, AAA, PPPoE, and extract the interfaces, what we used in the ONOS, and replace with the gRPC interfaces. So we reuse a lot of code from the ONOS. The only difference right now we are doing is the IGMP application.
Mm-hmm.
We are re-implementing it, and we want to run it on the vOLTHA level or in the OLT level. Like
Mm-hmm.
we can run in the OLT, or we can just run it as a container in the vOLTHA level, to get the packet in and packet out directly with the OLT. And maybe in later stages, all of the applications can be directly talk with the OLT for the packet in, packet out. As you stated in here, there's a packet handler here. It distributes the packets to different applications. This architecture is what we envisioned, so I'm okay. Personally, I'm okay with this.
Okay, so I think this is a nice segue to what I believe are the next steps. Like we said the past week, I think we have at least already we have one option at the moment in open source, which is ONOS. There's no other open source code.
Mm-hmm.
The second option that Radis has proposed to open source, and Raj will share a little bit more detail later, is going to come up very soon. And then you have already, you have something that you worked on that I would encourage you to open source. So at that point, given this design, which we effectively just agreed upon, I would suggest the community to look at this menu that it will be put in front of you, all of you, in terms of existing code of ONOS, Radis's proposal, and Nets's proposal, and just pick and choose for what you prefer the solution that is of your interest. And then I would advise in the future, the area governing board for broadband and the future TST to consider even the possibility that different controllers might be used for different operators. In the end, the other important point is that the northbound and southbound APIs are going to be a replacement for the existing APIs of ONOS. So that is key, that it is done in such a way that you can slot in and slot out the components. So as a next step, I really encourage all of you to open source whatever you have, take a look at it, and then make the decisions that suit the community the best, based on the operator's feedback. So on that, let me see if there are other questions or comments before we proceed.
Yeah, at least if none of the companies as this decides both companies want to open source their components or not decide they don't want to open source, at least we should have the design blueprints for the controller. At least we should agree on something on the community.
I believe that the agreement really lies, and I encourage you to, we can expand on this presentation, but the agreement really lies in the figure that stays in front of us right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because at least, unless I am mistaken or unless I've made a huge, I didn't see something that is very important, what you see here is the result of the three proposals we had put together. And then there are implementation details that might differ, but the overall architecture is this one. And the key element is really northbound APIs loading for Onos, southbound API, gRPC towards vOLTHA, and then pick and choose whatever you want. With the agreement that the suggestion should be performant, not an explosion of containers, not just one, and apps that can run on the OLT as well. These key elements. So maybe on that, I'll give the floor to Raj a little bit, because I think he has an interesting announcement from Radisys and how they will proceed with their exemplar code.
Thank you, Andrea. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. I think as most of you know, we have proposed to upstream open source our lightweight controller, and we will go ahead and do it in the spirit of openness and cooperation, and in the context of what Andrea just explained. Let us take a look at the code now that we have looked at the actual Docker image, if I may. We have tested it. We have seen that it is, and it is performant than the current Onos implementation. Let us now take what it requires as for us as a community to really build upon our implementation, or if there are other proposals that want to come on the table.
You're sharing your screen? Sorry.
I am.
No,
okay.
I am not.
It's not an issue.
Yeah, I have nothing to share, guys. I'm here at the airport, so I really cannot share much. But the point here is that we will go ahead and upstream and open source our code. Everybody in the community is very welcome to look at it. And if there are some architectural changes that we want to incorporate in terms of being able to run like an IGMP application that today is part of LWC but needs to be running outside of LWC as an app on the OLT, for example, we are willing and open to work through those architectural changes to see if we can find a good long-term replacement for the Onos controller. So Harsh,
this is good news.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying this is good news, and I see you also changed the name. Now is it vOLTHA Go controller?
That was my pick, Circuit, because I mean LWC is the name that Radisys had. I decided that I wanted a neutral name for one of the proposals. Like if Netsia's proposal will come up, I will not gonna call it Netsia's because to me it doesn't matter like it matters where it comes from in the sense of the quality of the code, but it should not live in a repo under ONF that has a company name. So that's why I've gone, and I've also decided to take away from the name that Radisys has used to make sure that if you guys decide that this is going to be the one that's going to be carried over and become the de facto standard, it is still going to be a clear cut between the internal Radisys implementation and the external forwards-facing one. So that's why I changed the name. And it's going to happen the same thing if you guys open source yours. So.
Andrea, just one comment on the name.
Yeah.
Maybe you would want to remove the Go word from that.
That's because otherwise VOLTHA controller cannot have another repo called VOLTHA controller. So I would like to keep that because it might the implementation from Netze can come from like Java. So I could say call it Java VOLTHA Java controller. If anybody can suggest better names, this is what I came up with. If you don't like it, my fault. Okay, so I think that the next step is for Radis to upstream the code, and then I would really encourage everybody to take a look at it. Really, the suggestion I have is to keep at heart the design discussion that we did in the past, and I just summarized today. The presentation is in the notes and is in the upstream drive folder from ONF, so everybody can take a look at it and. I think I would suggest everybody to take a look at it, use it, and use it as a blueprint for the decisions that are going to be made in the future. Okay, anything else on the topic? Any update there from other things on the LWC testing that you were doing?
No, nothing to update yet.
Okay,
I'm talking with Radis's guy to debug a few issues that are probably in the setup. That's it.
Okay. Okay. The other small element, I have a meeting at the top of the hour, so I'd like to wrap up a minute before. The other element that I wanted to point out is that I received some nominations for the candidates for TST, and on Thursday at the meeting in Berlin, I'll discuss with Timon what is the best course of action for these nominations. These are 4 nominations. So we have enough candidates to run an election. I would encourage, if some of you did not submit nominations or would like somebody from their team to be nominated, please do so, because I would really encourage everybody to spend time writing a little few words on that person that they want to candidate, so we have a good representation of all the interest of the VOLTHA community. So please do submit TST nominations for me, because very soon we're going to run an election or nominate. That is, or the old TST picks the 2 new nominees. We'll have to see. I'll have to talk to Timon about that and see what he prefers as well in terms of governance. But please do submit nominations if you didn't. Send them to me. Name, reason why you nominate him, history with the project, and why you think it's a good candidate for the TST. Please do submit them. Okay. Any questions? Okay, then if not, thanks everybody for joining. I'll publish the recording very soon. Let's act on the next steps. And if you have questions around the architecture, feel free to ping me. Thanks everybody. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.